All right, welcome back. We're here in our studio with Eugene Keplinger. He is the head of product for LeaseHawk and very well versed in AI and all the things that they're doing to build interesting and productive products for companies in multifamily. And this is part of our Meet the Partner series. LeaseHawk has been around doing AI and innovating the multifamily space for many years, and we'll get to know Eugene and what you're working on. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really excited about it. Really excited about the opportunity to talk about AI and how it impacts the multifamily industry.
Yeah, I'll tell you at the beginning, and I want to let those that are executives trying to figure out what to do with this and how to actually bring AI into the business, because obviously there's a lot of conversation around it, and there's many software tools that are introducing AI that maybe haven't before, and it's going to be everywhere. There was an event that I thought was interesting around air, which is AI is everywhere, just like air. But you guys have been native in AI for many, many years. I'd love to dive into your background a little bit more and what inspired you to come to LeaseHawk to make what's next for what you guys are working on.
Sure. So I'm going to step in the way back machine.
Yeah.
I've been in the engineering product management space for quite some time, and I've learned over the years through product management methodologies that understanding business problems and solving those business problems using technology is really at the forefront of every business that's out there. And so I was lucky to get drafted by a prior friend and colleague, Larry, into LeaseHawk, using the same methodologies that I've been using for a long time in product management to help solve those business problems.
Yeah, and going back, that was even Invitation Homes, correct? Yeah. And then even before that, you spent some time with American Express.
Yep. Yeah. So I was at Invitation Homes and then American Express, and then Larry said, "Let's get the team back together," and so we went over to LeaseHawk to keep moving on the vision that we had for a long time, which is how can we leverage technology to solve business problems in the multifamily and single family space.
I'll tell you, American Express is one of my favorite brands, just because not only being a member, right? He was this card holder and a member, and that whole experience. I mean, we're using a lot of the strategies that they've used to build a business that we use to build ours. I mean, you think about how they support business owners and small businesses, and we think of them as credit cards, but really they're more than that, right? I mean, it's a data company.
Oh, by far, they are number one in customer focused and data management. I was at American Express for a while, and the number one focus that we had was making sure that clients' data was secure and protected and accurate. That was the number one focus for every department within the company.
Yeah, and partnerships too I think about a lot of partnerships, even from venues and concerts, and when you look at brands like data or companies that respect data in that way, like Tesla, let's say, innovative brand and easy to pick on, right? But no company is really Tesla. We don't have like an Elon Musk in our industry. Arguably, you would say Mike Mueller would be that, right?
But, for sure. He's definitely pushing the boundaries, just like Elon Musk. Very similar tactics.
Yeah, and so what I mean by this, though, is if you think about data in Tesla, after that product is shipped, I guess, they know everything that's happening after the sale as much as before the sale, right? And how that product is being used. But I like the idea of the partnerships that's happening with Amex, knowing like, when you look at a Tesla, they're trying to increase the value of the vehicle instead of just the price, right? So most of the automakers, like, how do we sell more at a higher price, at a higher margin? And Elon's thinking, like, how do I make the vehicle more valuable to the customer? And I look at Amex or American Express that way, where, there's a premium for fees on certain cards, but the value with these partnerships is more valuable than other cards in its comparison, right? So if we can think about bringing that back to multifamily, how do you make the lease more valuable, right? Using data and the customer experience and all those things. It just makes me think about, how important technology companies in multifamily need to I think, bring in leaders like yourself that have this type of background and experience to then innovate inside multifamily companies.
Yeah, I think you hit on a key point, which is adding value. I think that every successful company has grown their success based on the value that they're bringing to whatever community they're serving. And Amex, you brought up the point of partnerships and safety around data and data management. They're looking at the data to find out how can they make the product more valuable. And that ends up generating a stickier product. It ends up increasing customer satisfaction. And then it gives you a landing platform to really start innovating and creating new products that add additional value.
You know, you mentioned adding value. I got to take me back into the decision of joining LeaseHawk. What did you see as a way that through your background in product and data and these amazing organizations you've helped change and grow, how do you see that decision? Like, where did you think you would add value at like a company like LeaseHawk?
Oh, great question. So I really learned a lot about the industry at Invitation Homes. And actually before that, I was over at a company called DriveTime. DriveTime was a major investor in Carvana before Carvana actually took off and became a private company or a public company. And when I migrated from the car sales industry into the multi or single family industry, what I noticed was how many different items were exactly the same. You're replacing the number one purchased thing, most expensive thing, which is a house, with a car, right? Your number two most expensive thing.
Sure.
You still have the amount of risk for making sure that your prospects are the right prospects to buy the vehicle, and same thing for a house. You're taking risk on that consumer, and so there was so much overlay between the two industries that when I got a chance to go over to Invitation Homes, I learned that, and then when Larry went over to LeaseHawk, I was jazzed at taking all of the experiences that I learned around Carvana, DriveTime, and Invitation Homes, and applying that to the multifamily space.
Yeah.
I would say that the multifamily space is probably 5 to 8 years technologically behind the car sales industry. What I found interesting is when we were building out the Carvana model, we had this concept of people can do it automatically through self-service. And I remember thinking to myself, no way. Everyone wants to test drive a car. They want to go see the car. They want to touch the car. I was boldly wrong. They are 100% right that the industry is moving towards self-service and automation as fast as possible. Anything we can do to reduce the amount of barriers that a consumer has to go through to gain access to their product, and let them conduct business at whatever time they want to. If they have to start work at 5 a.m., that means they may want to wake up a little early and start doing some shopping for their next apartment community. Let them do it, and don't make them pick up the phone call and call somebody. Let them do it online. Let them do it via text message. Anything that we can do to increase self-service and automation is key for the industry.
Yeah, you begin to think like a lot of the jobs were 9-to-5 jobs, the customer, the renters, right? And that whole global workforce is changing, I would suspect, even more and more as time goes on. And it's just not enough to be able to, who said our offices needed to be open between these times? Like, when does commerce actually happen? That was before you were able to do, things online and research online and reviews and all these types of things. From that aspect, how are you testing assumptions? Like, I would imagine one of the things I hear inside the Innovation Council is, a lot of the organizations have achieved so much success with the old model, and I would relate to the automotive industry where you have the large organizations and national chains, and that are more invested in scale and more franchise model. Then you have like the small, dealership rooftop in Delaware. And that owner has done really, really well with the old process, and it seems like the technology's here to solve the business problem. There needs to be, in many cases, a shift in behavior to either open your mind to something new or test the assumption about something. How did you get through the testing that assumption of even yourself, like with the car model even.
Yeah.
Were there others that had that feeling and pushed back? And what data did we need to feel like, you know what, this is something that could work at scale?
Yeah, I would say that it's no different in any industry. It's you take a small little subset, you take this hypothesis, and then you apply it to a small little subset, and then you monitor what happens afterwards. And that's applicable to every industry. And so the whole Carvana model, similar, right? They had this idea, they rolled it out in a very small market, and they waited and saw what the data looked like. How many people were buying cars? Was it better or worse than the original benchmark that they had using their standard business problem or process? We kind of do the same thing at LeaseHawk, where we have this new concept, this new idea, and we look for really innovative companies that want to partner with us to apply these new concepts and theories, and let's let it bake and let's see what happens, and let's compare the output of those experiments to the original benchmark. And what we're finding is that consumers are actually, once you open up those floodgates, consumers want to do business differently than the 9-to-5 model that we originally had. They may not want to just talk on the phone. They don't want to pick up the phone and talk to somebody because they have no idea how long they're going to wait on hold. They have no idea what's going to be on the other side of that. They have no idea what kind of mood the other person's going to be in. Mm-hmm. And so the more that we can allow them to do self-service on the channel that they prefer, text message, phone call, chat, those, letting them conduct business on the terms that they want to at whatever time that they want to, we see a lot of value add. When we look at the data of some of our clients, we see that people are conducting business outside of the 5 p.m. time, the business hours of 9 to 5. We see people conducting business via text and chat at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And then on the chat channel, which is on websites, that productivity continues until 12 or 1 in the morning. People are conducting business at 12 or 1 in the morning, which is way outside of the benchmark of 9 to 5. And you don't want to not have those customers. You want to give them the access to conduct business at whatever time they want, using whatever tools they want. Sure. And so we're seeing a lot of value in letting the consumer drive how they want to conduct business.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you mentioned data, and I start to think about, the clients sometimes make decisions based off of their own confirmation bias or their own bias, and in many cases, they may not even be the customer. Right. So when you think about you mentioned earlier around forward-thinking brands and innovative brands that want to, do this. The reality is that's not even the case anymore. It's like right now it's interest rates are beyond something that we can control. Insurance costs is out of control, rising in double digits. Right. You've got utilities going up. You have payroll going up. Employee turnover going up, training, retraining, the maintenance costs. Like, we have to find other paths to income, and this is not only afford an assistance program where it can give you more productivity in your business, but also I think take out some of the expense that we're spending on missed opportunities. And if you mentioned sales and that type of stuff, but going back to the data, one company makes a decision. They have their data for their company and their portfolio, but you guys have it for a wide net, very long years. And that seems to be the compelling piece in AI today, is that you can't catch up with that type of data set, right?
100%. Yeah.
So when you walk into a meeting with a client, you can help them in a more diverse way, knowing that data. Can we lean into a little bit about what you're learning with that data today?
Yeah, I would say that we've got more data around properties and consumers of those properties than most companies. Mm-hmm. LeaseHawk we've been around for quite some time. We've been using AI for a long time. We've recorded over, I don't remember what the last number was, over 100 million phone calls. And that's a ton of data around consumers and residents that are calling a property. And so now when we overlay AI on top of all of this communication that's coming to these properties, we can really get some interesting insights around what are prospects calling for, what are residents calling for, what's driving them to pick up that call and call you, what times are they calling you, who's answering these calls, and so we can now give you an extra layer of insights into your property and your consumers that most people don't have. I think that the most powerful data set that we get is consumer questions, because the prospects call in and they interact with a LeaseHawk product of some sort, and we analyze that data. We are getting an unfettered data set of what is driving their demand, what are their buying decisions. I know I've been asked by a lot of marketing people, what are people asking about? How do I need to just adjust my marketing? We all know that pricing and availability is the number one question that gets asked. But do you know what's number 2? Do you know what's number 3? Do you know what's number 4? We can give you the list of all of the questions that consumers are asking. And what's great is it's unbiased. The consumer doesn't even know that they're giving us access to this data just by asking the questions that they're asking. And so we can now help properties really adjust their marketing and positioning, or solve resident-based problems, because a lot of the calls we take are residents as well. They're calling in trying to find out what the link is for their work order forms, or to schedule amenities, or complaints of some sort. And we can now take action on all that data and do something about it and create new workflows, new automations.
How was your experience even going back to American Express and these other brands? How has that shaped your meetings and as you're designing and working through these conversations internally with AI?
Yeah, great question. So what's funny is I'm gonna actually take the AI part of that question out of the equation, because the process for developing new technology is the same process it's been since forever. It is, let's understand the business problems, the really, really pervasive problems that companies are having, and what technology can we leverage to help solve those problems. And so when we talk about, all these previous brands of Amex or Invitation Homes, the process in innovation is always been the same, which is, let's go talk to our clients, let's go talk to the users of this technology, and let's find out what they're using it for. What problems do they have? What additional problems do they have that have nothing to do with our industry? And once you really understand your consumers and what problems they have, that's when you can start thinking about technical solutions to help solve those problems. What I've known learned over the past 7-8 years is that AI tends to be on the forefront of my thought process when I'm thinking about technology to solve the problems. But it doesn't have to be the number one solution to every single problem. In fact, we know that's not the case. But I do find myself jumping more towards, okay, how can AI help me solve this problem? And then I have to work my way back and say, that's not really the right use case for AI. Let's use a different type of technology to help solve those problems. But that really helps shape the roadmap and build up our company brand.
Right. We want our problem to go away. We don't want a new thing.
Right.
It's the last thing we need. And that's part of, there's a lot of people that could be intimidated by these conversations because they could build a building, which I believe are, the multifamily developers have been software developers technically longer than before there was even the internet, right? So they understand and respect the development process. They understand working together with partners, that you need a good roadmap. You need, the architectural plan, the engineers, the disciplines from electrical, the infrastructure, all that stuff for something to stand strong vertically, right? And you have compliance to that, city inspections, and they also have a long view with so they respect the process. When it comes to technology, we kind of just want it right now. We just want it to work, and that's not always the case, right?
No, it's definitely not always the case. And what's funny is you bring up a psychological component to this, which is consumer or business people, we want the technology to work fast and we want it immediately and it has to be perfect. Consumers of our products have the same exact opinion. They want access to whatever they want with the least amount of limitations, as fast as they possibly can, without having to interact with people. That self-service and automation is really a key, right? Or I shouldn't even say self-service and automation. It's really self-gratification, instant gratification.
Sure.
Right? How do I get what I'm trying to get at as fast as I possibly can with the least amount of mistakes? I think it's just part of human nature.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think of like a delivery service and just seeing that this is on your way, or Amazon, it's 10 steps away. There's little dopamine hits of that I'm moving towards the thing I need,
Right.
as a customer. It's pretty interesting. And when you leave a voicemail, that doesn't work. You're just wondering.
Yeah.
Like, will they call me back? Because likely they won't, right? That's just, you guys have all the data on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that people don't even want to leave voicemails. I mean, I don't know about you. I can't tell you the last time I left a voicemail.
Yeah.
I call people, and if I hear a voicemail, I hang up.
Yeah.
That thought process is applicable to not just me to you phone calls, but me to a business phone call, or me to anything. If something doesn't pick up that call, I'm not getting that self-service that I wanted, and I'm not going to leave a voicemail because I have no idea who's going to listen to it. I have no idea when I'm going to get a call back, and that goes against what I'm trying to do, which is how do I quickly accomplish the goal that I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we back up, and I look here around, maybe you can catch me up, because last time we sat down with your team, it's been a while, and I know things move quickly. Tell me how you're using AI to help sort of centralize the relationship with technology, and how we communicate and engage with residents. Like, what's new today that you can talk about?
Oh yeah, so when we look at what LeaseHawk has been doing over the last couple of years. At first, we started on the prospect side of things. There was a really big problem to solve, which was people wanted to get access to the information about the property using the phone channel, and leasing agents were extremely busy. They were overly busy, and they couldn't address every single phone call that was coming in while helping this other customer go on a tour, while responding to this resident complaint, while working on this work order. They were just too busy. And so there's a massive problem there on the prospect side of things. So that's where we decided to leverage AI to help answer all of those calls. I mean, if you think about it, these property management companies are spending lots of money to ILS companies like Zillow or Apartments.com or whatever to generate leads. And then the leads are picking up the phone and calling that property. But if the property can't answer that call, then that lead falls flat on the floor. And if you just give them a voicemail, they're probably not going to leave a voicemail. And so you're not even getting all the leads you're paying for.
Sure.
So that's where we really wanted to focus in on the prospect side of things. But to go back to your original question, which is how can we take that knowledge and that technology and apply it to the resident side of things? We started rolling out resident services as part of our offering. Which is we'll now take resident-based phone calls, and using AI and using workflow, we'll let residents that just want simple tasks accomplished. What's the link to fill out a work order form?
Mm-hmm.
What time is the gym open? Can I schedule this amenity? I have this leaky toilet. These are all great examples of how we could take what we've already built on the prospect side of things and apply it to the resident side of things, which increases the resident satisfaction because they're now gaining access to the information they need without having to wait, without having to talk to a person, without having to leave a voicemail and not know when they're not going to get called back.
Sure.
It hits that dopamine level, like you mentioned, around I just now have access to this data that I've been looking for.
Yeah, and there's more trust there in the process because they wouldn't be a resident if they didn't go through that, right?
Right.
With LeaseHawk on that process. So, I think about, and we've talked about this in our council meetings, is, we're a people business, and I was speaking with NVIDIA yesterday on as part of our council stuff, and he said look at AI as, instead of artificial, look at it as like assistance, you know? And I thought that was really compelling because a lot of what you're doing is you're allowing each leasing agent or manager, whoever is involved in the sales process, to have this assistant, right? But also before the sale, right? Paying all the money for the ads, you have this sales assistant, but then after the sale, right? So then, you know, it's more likely to convert on a renewal if things go well during the stay, right? So that's assisting the whole financial process there in ultimately what we're doing, which is renting apartments. But there's been some pushback even in our meeting around like selling, right? And it's like if someone's not there to know where the sale fell off, then, or the objection is, then how would you know how to convert or follow up and that stuff? And that's where I think about your data is you guys are listening to all these things online, the questions and all that stuff. Are people using that data when they're building new developments and they're thinking about the ideal customer? Do you guys see that already?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. 100%. So that data is actually more valuable to us than the data of success. You know, we have a lot of data that shows all the successes of AI and consumers that call in and they interact with our AI technology and they schedule tours and they ask their questions and they get the information that they are looking for. That all that does is support the theory that AI can be used productively by consumers, but that doesn't help us grow any. And so where the data really becomes valuable is in those scenarios where someone doesn't get information that they're looking for or immediately wants to transfer and talk to a human. We can look at that data and find out, oh, well, interesting. We didn't know that people were asking these types of questions. Let's go ahead and train our models to go ahead and answer these types of questions. Or I didn't know that was a workflow that needed to be built out. The data is telling us that this consumer hit a roadblock and needed help, and it was a simple workflow configuration that we had to do to be able to allow them to use AI to accomplish those things. So it's that whole Google methodology of fail fast, fail often, so that you can get the data and find out what adjustments you need to make.
Yeah, it's interesting. Knowing what you know, and knowing what's possible because you're embedded in all this stuff. What would you say to a multifamily owner, operator, executive that is looking to, obviously protect cash flow, but also grow the business in a way that they make all the right moves, right? So it's safe, conservative. How would you be thinking through all of this in terms of that prospect journey? And like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different metrics that can support the use of AI and automation and self-service to help support my portfolio of properties. If I were the owner-operator...
Yeah, if you're the owner-operator, like it's your building, now you have this tool.
Yeah. The things that I would be looking for are metrics around how much do I save by leveraging AI? How much additional money do I make by leveraging AI? And we've done a couple case studies with some of our clients. And what we found is when AI is in use, we have found that lead to lease time decreases by roughly 15-20% when AI is in play. And that's for same store data. So a consumer that uses AI versus a consumer that doesn't use AI for the same exact property, the consumer that uses AI tends to convert faster than a consumer that doesn't use AI. And that is immediate revenue to the bottom line. I no longer have those marketing costs because that unit is not vacant for as long as it was. I don't have the holding costs associated. I now have additional revenue coming in a day, 2 days, 3 days faster using AI, and those are really impactful for me as a property owner. Furthermore, when we look at what AI allows in that self-service and automation, I know that I can grow my business without growing my human costs at the same clip. So if I can add another property without adding a full-time staff for that property, because I now have AI to answer 50% of the calls that weren't getting answered originally. That's also impactful to my bottom line. I have less operational costs to manage my properties, and I think both of those are really good metrics to look into if I was a property owner.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, it's top of mind as part of our council. We roadmap the challenges that people have and also the priorities to those. So as you map that out in the spoken word, I'm curious, how do you take that back to meetings and roadmap even your own product design so that it's aligned with these types of initiatives you just described?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at LeaseHawk's vision, our vision is how can we increase the speed of leasing and increase the consumer experience for my leasing, what we call our leasing life cycle. So that is not just searching for a property and touring a property. It's all the resident side of things as well. That's part of the leasing life cycle, and so we're trying to increase that experience through self-service and automation. And what I'm finding is that the ramifications of increasing the consumer's ability to gain access and accomplish whatever they're trying to accomplish, it directly impacts the bottom line from the property owner side of things. So I think it's a win-win for both sides of the equation. The consumer's happier because they're able to conduct business at whatever time that they want to, using whatever channel they want to. And the our is happy because they're able to lease units faster. Mm-hmm. It's truly a win-win. And so when we look at our roadmap and what LeaseHawk's trying to do, we want to keep increasing the amount of workflows that we have using AI. We want to gain more insights into our data so that we can give that to properties to make better business decisions on their side. The whole concept of a 9 to 5 on Monday through Sunday was a thing, but using data, we've been able to show that you may not have to have your office open as much because we're now able to address most of those calls on, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. Sure. So you now have the ability to reduce your expenses by closing your office earlier using AI, and again, the consumer's happy because they're getting access to what they're trying to accomplish on a Sunday without human intervention.
Yeah, we've talked about this even in our meetings around even the employee experience too, like giving them more flexibility in how they want to show up to work. So you could shut down on a Tuesday, but still have fast leasing, speed to lease, all that stuff. I love how you describe that. The word automation, I think of automation and then I think of autonomous. Autonomous is like complete, hands-off. Automation, where people begin and end the process, you have this sort of turnover to, there's still the hands on the steering wheel. I was, have you been on a Waymo ride yet?
I have not, no.
Okay.
I'd be all for it though. As a technology guy, I'd be in no problem.
I did a video with it. It's pretty cool. I hope I'll be sharing it soon. But the steering wheel's still there, So we're in this state of change where a lot of executives worked in a way that these things weren't possible. So, we get a job, we get promoted, we tell others how to do a job, and we make great money and success, and people tell us we're doing great. So there's this bias that we have to the path of, success or yields. And yet here we're in this transition. I've said this before, where in moments of, and AI is probably accelerating it faster than anything else, which is the cordless phone, the self-driving car, right? You look at motion pictures, all these things that the process changed, but we described it as something that it used to be for us to just kind of have context over it. What do you think the future of leasing is? We don't make predictions. I don't expect you to make predictions, but where do you think things are going with this process?
Yeah. So I think that you've hit on a couple components that are really important. Number one is that whole steering wheel when it comes to automation. I think that's part of the FUD factor, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And Waymo puts that steering wheel in place because it makes humans feel better that they're in a car that has a steering wheel versus not in a car. It makes them trust the technology better. I think that in this industry, we deal with the same kind of FUD factor. Now, I've noticed over the last 5 years of being in AI in the multifamily industry that FUD factor is reducing every single year. And people are becoming more familiar with this technology and okay with deploying it and trying out new use cases of this technology. I think there's a lot of synergies between that Waymo experience that you had and using AI in our multifamily industry.
Yeah, I wrote down a few things here going back to my ride in Waymo. When I opened the app, I thought first I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into this cool technology thing. But when I opened the app, I thought, oh my gosh, that's the most brilliant marketing message I've ever seen. And when I opened the app, it said, I summoned the car and it said, the most experienced driver is on the way. And I'm thinking about all the data and all the conversations. 100 million, you said?
Yeah, over
calls.
100 million.
The most experienced leasing agent is here.
Right.
The data, I thought wait a minute, my car's sitting out there right now, not driving. This thing has been driving millions of miles. It's driven more than me. You know what I mean? And so the fear, uncertainty, and doubt thing, it's more of a personal movement of self, changing behavior that I think that plays out in these experiences.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that we've had to do with our technology, because AI is again so impactful and so powerful to assist our clients in getting over that FUD factor. We've had to put configurations in place that say, okay, we can do this as much as you want. So we've got the ability to put AI up front, and our technology just picks up the phone and says, how can I help you? Right? There's no IVRs in place. There's no press this if you're that. It is just someone picking up the phone call every single time consistently and saying, how can I help you? Now, we can deploy it in that capacity. Some of our clients are all for it. They want to reduce their operating expenses as much as possible, and that is a big way to do it, is putting AI up front in the experience. Other consumers, they still like that white glove approach of having a human that's there, right? That's that steering wheel in the Waymo. And so we also have the ability to deploy our AI technology as just a fallback. If the agent doesn't answer the phone, let's go ahead and take that call back. And we've done this so that we can get through all these different variations of FUD factor.
Is that like the crawl, walk, run kind of approach?
Yeah, that's right.
Just
some of our clients want to just run. Some of them want to run, and we're all for it. Those are great clients of ours. In fact, they ended up being the most successful clients because they reduce their costs. Their consumers have a great experience, a consistent experience, and we get a ton of data out of it, which helps us train our models even further and grow our product offering.
What are some challenges you're excited about solving? And I got to imagine AI is not done, right? So
no, it's in its infancy. It really has. Even though that we're one of the leading vendors for AI in this space, even we see that it's in its infancy. I think the most exciting challenge that I see coming up is what we call crossing the chasm. If you're familiar with that book, we've seen over the last 5 years early adopters of this technology and people that are willing to experiment and deploy and test and see what happens. Those are what we call the early adopters. Now we're kind of in this crossing the chasm moment where we're going to start getting an influx of the majority of people now getting comfortable using AI technology and deploying AI technology across their portfolio. And I think there's so much growth that we'll gain out of it, but also the amount of data that we'll collect out of 80% of properties starting to deploy this technology, and seeing what comes of that data. Right? How much more automation can we input? We're actually looking at using AI now to make recommendations, so we can analyze calls and say, your leasing agent did great at the introduction side of things, but kind of fell flat on their close of these calls. Here's some recommendation. Here's some training material that we can offer to that agent to help them close. So we're now letting AI make humans better in doing their job. I think that's a huge area of opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the residents, honestly, with that data. I mean, you start to think about just the way I live my life, and I know people have my data because things that are more interesting are coming to me more naturally instead of friction in the process, even from purchasing e-commerce stuff, right? I mean, it's the buyers have all been trained on the expectations of this stuff. We've covered a lot here. I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Knowing what you know about the ability for you to come into an organization, bring AI, bring technology and solutions to lease faster. What did I miss? Is there something that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
No, I don't think so. But I do want to leave one statement, which is, AI is great technology, but it's not the answer to everything. It by itself, it's no different than a Swiss Army knife. It's got a lot of different use cases, but it's also limited in its right. use cases. So I guess my messaging would be: don't be afraid of AI technology. Also, don't try to apply AI technology to every problem that you have, because it's got its use cases where it's great, and some that it's not the most important technology to use. And the third thing I'd say is when you're going out and looking at AI and how to deploy AI, talk to your vendors. Make sure your vendors are experienced. They've been in the game for a long time. We've been in the game for a long time, so we can tell you all of the great use cases of AI technology. But also, there's some areas that technology is not the most impactful, and we've got other recommendations for it. So I think leveraging that consultative approach with AI experienced vendors is key to the industry.
Yeah, and we're going to bring you guys into the council and help our members understand more of these things because, again, I go back to the analogy of building apartments, because until we have these white walls in our studio here. I always call them like the museum walls. Like if you put art on it, it increases the value of the thing, right? But to me, building apartments, I can almost see through the drywall, right? Because I know what's behind it, And I think as executives listen to, people like yourself and other experts that have actually built things, then this isn't something to just like consume. You have to play with it. You have to see it used. It's like when I went into Waymo, like I experienced it. And I just encourage anybody, if they're in that, what did you call it? FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt state, the way through that is jumping on a call, getting in touch with someone like yourself and trying something, like right. using it, seeing the result, reflecting on the data. And that's why we're bringing in, someone that's leading product. You're not here to sell. You're here to help us understand this stuff so we can create the value. I like also the way that your vision is. It's not like you're here to talk about AI. We're talking about speed to lease. We're talking about those efficiency programs, the profitability of that company, and that can be exciting. So appreciate your time. I know that this is probably more of a series, and again, the stuff that we'll do inside the council will be useful in answering some of the questions. Or if you have a question, if you're listening or you're watching, send us a message, and we'll get it to Eugene, and we'll talk about what's next for you and your company. But thanks for coming on. Any final thoughts you want to leave our viewers with?
No. Just I'm very grateful to be in this technology space, in this industry that has so many different use cases for technology, and it's just a great experience for myself. I love watching the market change, and I really look forward to where we go over the next 10 years.
That's awesome. It's great. I love what you said about the due diligence. When that change is coming, stick with those that have been through it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on. We'll see you in the next one.